All right, so once again, welcome to the CBNE Forum 2021, a season of learning. So thank you for joining us today as we deepen the capacity building to further enhance the skills and knowledge of CBNEs, facilitate creative thinking and strategic partnerships to facilitate CBNE resilience, and deepen the knowledge and networking of CBNEs on market mechanisms. So before we start, just a few housekeeping or guidelines reminders we should remember. First is to make sure that you understand the sessions. We have interpretation in Khmer, Vietnamese, Nepali, Lao, Bahasa Indonesia, Tagalog, and Bisaya languages today. So we want to make sure that you are all properly connected and can hear us clearly. For our Tagalog or Filipino interpretation, you need to click on Spanish. If you need interpretation and this is the first time for you to use it on Zoom, please look for the interpretation button globe icon on the lower right part of your screen, or three buttons which will lead you to interpretation. So to make sure you can hear the speaker, you are all muted upon entry, but we do have a chat box where you can place any questions or concerns that you may have. Finally, we have a technical team on hand to assist, so please direct your messages to them at NTFP-EP Technical for any technical concerns. I would like to encourage our participants to please open their cameras to have a more lively and interactive session. We also encourage you to write all of your questions in the chat box, and we will compile them for the question and answer part of our program. So this session is the Youth Encounter session initiated by the International Forestry Students Association. Our session moderator is Ms. Annie Biju. So Ms. Annie Biju is a recently graduated master's student at the Forest Research Institute, deemed University, India, with majors in forest genetics and biotechnology. Let me share for you. There. So once again, Ms. Annie Biju is a recently graduated master's student at the Forest Research Institute, deemed University, India, with majors in forest genetics and biotechnology. She holds a bachelor degree in botany from Sacred Heart College. She has been an active office holder of IPSA, having been the president of IPSA LCFRI and as delegated for the United Nations Environmental Assembly 5 and as speaker in different IPSA events. She is the incoming IPSA coordinator for the joint IUFRO-IPSA Task Force on Forest Education for 2022 to 2024. Please welcome our session moderator, Ms. Annie Biju. Take it away, Annie. Annie, you are muted. Hello, Annie, can you hear us? Okay, maybe while we are still waiting for Annie to come back in our call, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our speakers for today. Sir Brady is here, Gurji from Mindanao, and Michelle Jean, and also Dina. And also I see our friends from IPSA. We have Dina from Indonesia here, and also our NTFP staff. And also from the Philippines, I see Lao, and also Steve is also here. He is from Latin America. So welcome, Steve. And I see a lot more people trying to come in our session for today. So while we are waiting, we have a prompt question in our chat, which talks about, can you please share with us what are the NTFPs or the non-timber forest products that are present in your country? So maybe you could share there. So once again, good morning to everyone. Welcome to our Youth Encounter session. So this session aims to understand the importance of non-timber forest products, discover new approaches, including traditional forms and modern designs. So in this session, we will discuss the potential of non-timber products in the context of climate change and discover the potential role and involvement of students in the CBNEs. Now, just to provide a quick overview of our session, firstly, we will have a presentation by Dr. Brady on understanding the importance of NTFP products, followed by a joint presentation on sustainable cinnamon enterprise by Gergie and Michelle Jean. Next, we will have a moderated discussion followed by a question and answer session from the audience. So we will see concluding remarks from our youth reactor, which is Noor Maulidina. And last but not the least, we will have our picture time. So once again, I encourage our participants to open their cameras and interact in the chat box if you would like to have ask questions or manifest whatever you're thinking. Okay, so without further ado, let us start with our session. So for our very first speaker, we have Michael Brady is a principal scientist at CIFOR and leads the value chains finance and investment team. He is based at Bogor, Indonesia. Dr. Brady manages VFI programs in Asia, Africa, and Latin America in achieving sustainable value chains and commodity supply in forest landscapes. Also, in developing business models that deliver improved social and environmental outcomes, and promoting responsible finance that contribute to advancing sustainable land and resource uses. He also leads the flagship 3 priorities in the Forest, Trees, and Agroforestry program on sustainable value chains and investments for supporting forest conservation and equitable development. Prior to joining CIFOR, he was a senior forestry officer at the International Finance Corporation, the private sector arm of the World Bank Group. There, he managed forestry and wood product advisory and investment projects throughout Asia and Africa. Dr. Brady has worked for over 30 years in Indonesia and throughout East Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa on forestry research, policy and management, forestry investment and finance, forest ecosystem dynamics and restoration, and sustainability standards and certification systems. He has held various private, public, and academic positions in sectors including forestry, pulp, paper, oil and gas and mining. He has a Bachelor of Science in Biology, a Master in Science in Forest Management, and a PhD in Tropical Peat Forest Science. So without further ado, let's give our attention to Dr. Brady. The floor is yours, Dr. Brady.
Well, thank you very much, Paula, and it's a pleasure to be here today. That was quite an introduction, but maybe for some of the younger, the youth listening, just seeing the career that I've had, which is, I've been very, very fortunate. That's something that all of you have the potential to achieve as well, if you stick with it. There's lots and lots of opportunities, and I've been very lucky. So I'm going to talk to you about the importance of NTFP. I'd like to thank the organizers, the CBNE forum, as well as the IFSA. And C4 is a keen supporter of IFSA. Some of our pathways to bringing in scientists to C4 is certainly involves graduate students. Okay, next slide. Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about C4 ICRAF and describe our recent merger and our work in NTFP. And then zero in on three particular NTFP research programs on rattan, rubber, and shea. And I'll try to focus on different aspects of each of these three. And then make some concluding remarks to try and tie this into the involvement of youth. Next slide. So as I mentioned, and some of you may know that C4 and ICRAF have merged. That's the Center for International Forestry Research and the World Agroforestry Center. So we're now together as one large institution. We have over 700 staff, 30 operating. We have offices in over 30 countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. We've, over the last 30 plus years, we've worked with more than 200,000 people from 185 countries that have participated in C4 ICRAF research and development work. And we've produced over 25,000 publications. So quite a substantial achievement. Some key pillars to our work, obviously a focus on research, but research for impact. So it's generally applied research, strong focus on capacity development, training, student development, and a focus on outreach and engagement. Some of you may be aware of C4's Global Landscapes Forum initiative, which is very, very active and focuses on reaching substantial numbers of people around the world. Next slide. As I mentioned, C4 and ICRAF have both been substantially involved in NTFP research and development work for C4 starting back in 1995 with a focus on trade and investment in NTFP and how that can boost local livelihoods, improve biodiversity, and generate economic benefits to society. Our focus on NTFP is very broad, the traditional definitions, but perhaps a bit more inclusive in that we also include wood products, such as wood for handicrafts and wood carving, as well as for fuel and energy. We look at many aspects of NTFPs, collection, multiple uses, trade, environmental impact, and the role and influence of policy on NTFPs. I've listed on this slide some of the websites where you can access C4 and ICRAF publications on NTFP. One publication of note is a particular project back about 10 years ago now, where we did a global comparative analysis, including 61 different cases of NTFP systems around the globe. So it's a nice synthesis. Next one. NTFP is an important part of a new focus within C4 and ICRAF on what we're calling tree-based bioeconomy solutions. This is a kind of a subset of a recent focus on nature-based solutions to mitigate and adapt to climate change. We've just recently launched what we're calling a transformative partnership platform with a focus on tree-based bioeconomy solutions. And a number of NTFPs are addressed, as well as a number of partners, for example, Inbar, with a focus on bamboo and rattan. And these solutions address sectors. I mentioned bioenergy, particularly for marginal lands, furniture value chains in a number of countries, nutrition from forests, and new focus on issues like restoration, just jurisdictional approaches for governance at the subnational level, and ongoing addressing impact assessment. Next slide. So as Paula mentioned, I lead a program in C4 called Value Chains, Finance and Investment. And this program does include a focus on NTFPs. It has three elements. We're doing research and development work on sustainable value chains from forest landscapes. And this includes NTFP, but also plantations and other tree crop commodities. And it's got a particular emphasis on sustainable supply. We are also looking at business models. So again, a link to NTFP business models on a large number of tree-based commodities. And the public and private commitments around zero deforestation. So just yesterday, C4 was part of a launch of a new report on the New York Declaration of against deforestation. And this is for Goal 7 under the Sustainable Development Goals. If a number of you may be following the New York Declaration on Forest Assessments, so please keep an eye out for this new report. And the third thematic area is responsible finance, and this is my particular interest. Paula mentioned I worked with a bank before joining C4, and I have a particular interest in access to finance for smallholders, including NTFP. So we're looking at business models to support bankable projects and improving finance access, including at sustainable landscape level. So that's my program. Next slide. Well, I'll move on to talk about three different NTFP examples where we have active research The first, I guess, is one of my strong interests is rattan here in Indonesia. And a focus of our current work is on sustainable harvesting. I was pleased to see the references earlier today in an earlier session on the ASEAN guidelines for NTFP, which address sustainable harvesting aspects, as well as another report, I think, by the CBNE group, which had a dedicated report on rattan sustainability. And so very, very good to see that. We're working with a very large home supply enterprise to help them understand sustainable harvesting of rattan and to establish some harvesting guidelines. So we're currently working in 2 provinces in Sulawesi to look at harvesting, I guess, history in these 2 provinces, and to actually measure and track sustained yield. So the kilograms of rattan sustainably harvested per hectare per year. So a typical measure of sustained yield. Currently, that number is still a bit of a mystery. Research has not been consistent in using proper units and proper measurements. So we're hoping to contribute to the sustained yield science. And working with smallholders in these 2 provinces to provide them with then sustainable harvesting guides and farmer field books to track their harvesting. Next slide. This work has a particular focus on ecological sustainability. So I mentioned sustained yield of rattan in different habitats, different growth rates, different species, and different regeneration ecologies. Tied closely to that is a focus on institutional and management sustainability. So looking at the policies and regulations on harvesting nationally, provincially, and at the forest management unit level within Indonesia. Looking also at issues around certification. Rattan is not currently certified, and it probably would benefit from that. So these are some of the areas that we're looking at on rattan. Next slide. Another strong area of interest is rubber, rubber latex, which is for C4 and ICRAF, an NTFP. And we're particularly interested in the aspects of business model diversification in rubber plantations. And so we're looking at a variety of areas of diversification, ranging from improving extensive, we call jungle rubber, to help make it more economic, provide a stronger livelihood for rubber farmers. Looking at intercropping rubber and other crops, such as in the photo, you can see rice, but a variety, dozens and dozens of other species that can be intercropped with rubber. Again, to promote stronger livelihoods, more sustainable yields, and seasonal revenue generation. Looking also at rubber as an opportunity for restoration of degraded lands. It's been I think you're all aware of a large focus in this new decade of restoration. And rubber certainly provides an opportunity for soil stability, cover, as well as livelihood opportunities. Next slide. Just an example of something I've worked on of diversification in rubber. There's a very interesting project in southern Sumatra on rubber agroforestry, where rubber is combined with a natural tree species in the area, an Alstonia species, which has been very popular for pencil making. Sounds a bit hokey, but pencil production is huge globally, and this particular species is very valuable for pencil, very high quality pencils exported from Indonesia to Europe, North America, and under this quite a sustainable system where the rubber farmers also grow this Alstonia species, and that can enhance their revenues from, modest revenues from latex production. So that's rubber. Next slide, please. The third NTFP that we have been focusing on recently is Shea. This is a tree species, Vitellaria. It's found in West Africa, countries like Burkina Faso, northern Ghana. And Shea has been used for decades, if not centuries, for its nut, which has a very oil-rich nut and is used to make oils and butters from the Shea nuts. This has traditionally been an NTFP managed mainly by women in West Africa. The Shea oil and butter is exported for a number of products, everything from food products to health, beauty, cosmetic products. But currently, Shea is under threat. As well, the role of women within the Shea NTFP sector is being diminished. And so there's a lot of effort to try and strengthen the NTFP, as well as the traditional role of women. And part of this is being done through the use of multi-stakeholder platforms. So C4ICRAF is involved in a global Shea alliance to try and strengthen the NTFP as well as the role of women. And this alliance is an example of multi-stakeholder platforms. Other examples, the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, the new global platform on sustainable natural rubber. These are multi-stakeholder platforms that can provide a very important support for NTFPs. Next slide. So as I mentioned, these platforms provide opportunities for engagement, particularly for women in the case of Shea, to try to strengthen their role on issues around access to land and how land distribution systems are changing, which is impinging or negatively affecting the role of women in the Shea NTFP. So these multi-stakeholder platforms are seen as a way to try and strengthen the NTFP. And that's it for the three NTFPs. Next slide, please. So I'll try to make some remarks on the involvement of youth. It's not an area that I've have looked at closely, although I certainly support, as I mentioned earlier, young people getting into the forestry and agroforestry sectors. But on rubber, there is a particular concern about child labor in the rubber sector, whether you link children, the youth. I believe the labor regulations focus on 15 to 17 years. So I think youth should be beyond issues around child labor, but it's certainly an increasing area of concern. So on rattan, it's kind of the opposite. The harvesting labor supply for harvesting is diminished. Places like Indonesia. So there's a real importance to try and engage youth to provide that next generation of rattan collectors and to make sure that they maintain the pass on knowledge and experience of rattan harvesting. So a real important for youth to stay within this sector. On Shea, I mentioned the multi-stakeholder platforms. Youth is certainly an important stakeholder within these platforms, and that's been formally recognized. I think most of the multi-stakeholder platforms do formally recognize the role of youth. But as a final comment, from my experience, and I think that's been well discussed in this forum, youth have a particular opportunity to contribute their perhaps stronger education and knowledge in subjects such as maths, computers, internet skills, which can really contribute to enterprise activities in NTFPs, particular accounting, marketing, inputs, and inventory. And these are all areas, as a former banker looking at bankable investment opportunities, the many small enterprises are particularly weak in their accounting, their business operations, where math, internet, marketing skills are increasingly needed. So with that, I'll finish, and thank you very much for your attention. Thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Dr. Brady, for your wonderful presentation. It really helps us understand the role of CIFOR aircraft in research and development associated with NTFPs, and also how youth is involved in activities associated with NTFPs. I'm sure it motivated all these students. I sincerely apologize for the technical issues I was facing in the beginning of the session. Now moving on to further understanding the current state of NTFPs and what would be our role as the youth in helping CBNEs. For our second speaker, we have Brady Malay. He is a renowned youth from Nusa Oriental, North Mindanao, Philippines. He is currently a student of the agriculture. He is a student of University of Science and Technology, Philippines, studying Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, major in Animal Sciences. For 6 years, he has been actively involved in community-based NTFP enterprises. Now, let us pay attention to his video.
Hello, Diana. The video is lagging. Maybe I can help.
Gusto yung kalingag.
Can everyone see my screen? Yes?
Yes, Paula, it's visible.
All right, thank you.
Ako si Brady Maluay, saka IP Youth Volunteer, sukad niadtong 2016 sa Mamasila Higaonon Tribal Community Incorporated. Ako ang business manager sa among community enterprise, samtang naningkamot nga mopadayon sa pag-eskwela sa kursong Bachelor of Science in Agriculture. Ang akong ipaambit sa inyo, kabahin sa among negosyong kalingag. Kung giun sa namo kini pagpili aron mahimong usa ka negosyo, o kung giun sa namo kini pag-amping taliwala sa mga hulga sa among kalasangan ug yutang kabilin.
Ang among grupo mao ang Cinnamon Community Enterprise ubos sa Mamasila nga adunay 20 ka membro, lakip na ang mga leader, cinnamon harvester o processor. Naa nahimutang ang among processing center ug display center sa Barangay Mati ug Manibay sa Claveria, Misamis Oriental. Naa pa sa duha ka tuig kini nga enterprise ug padayon paghihapon namo pandayon ug kapaliguonon. Ang tuyo ug tumong sa among grupo mao ang mahatagan o madugangan ang income o panginabuhian sa among mga membro diha sa komunidad. Usa sa misyon sa among grupo mao ang pagdevelop sa malawtayong livelihood alang sa mga membro diha sa komunidad nga dili madaot ang natural resources ug mga sagradong lugar sulod sa among ancestral domain.
Ang nadesisyonan sa among grupo nga malawtayong livelihood mao ang cinnamon nga iproseso ngadto sa usa ka produkto nga mao'y among himuong negosyo.
Ang cinnamon powder nga gikan sa panit sa kahoy sa kalingag, usa ka non-timber forest product nga ang tradisyonal nga gamit namo nga mga higaonon mao ang among kape, sa o pampainit. Ang kalingag makahatag og kaayuhan sa mga sakit sa tiyan ug maayo usab siya nga panambal sa pagbalik sa kusog sa mga nabughat.
Sa wala pa namugna ang Cinnamon Community Enterprise, among gihimo uban sa NTFP-EP. Una, among gipahigayon ang Community Livelihood Appraisal and Product Scanning o CLAPS.
Usa kini kapamaagi sa pagsusi o paglista sa mga kapaningwaan sulod sa among yutang kabilin, kung didto nakita nga usa sa pinakadaghan nga resources nga makita sulod sa among ED mao ang cinnamon o kalingag kanamong mga taga Mamasila. Ang kriteria sa pagpili namo sa cinnamon mao ang kadaghanon, kasayon sa pag-ani, kalayon gikan sa komunidad, kapas pa sa pagbalik sa kadaghan, papil o kaamot sa kinayahan o kahuyang o kansensitibo sa katalagman. Sa among pagmapa sa mga katalagman sulod sa among yutang kabilin, nakita namo nga ang mga kalingag layo sa kasagarang katalagman sa among lugar nga mao ang pagbaha, pagdahili sa yuta o landslide ug dili siya maapektuhan sa sobra o grabe nga mapadayonon nga ulan. Tungod niana nakadesisyon ang among grupo nga cinnamon ang among himuon nga negosyo kay makahatag kini og benepisyo sa tawo tungod kay makahatag kaayuhan sa lawas ug naa siya dako nga commercial potential tungod kay magamit siya nga inumon o pagkaon ug nga daan na kini nailhan ang cinnamon tungod sa iyang commercial nga gamit. Haumpod siya i-develop ngadto sa usa ka produktong pagkaon tungod kay ang among lugar agianan sa daghan nga mga gabiyahe ug atuanan sa mga galaag nga mga pamilya o barkada tungod sa among bugnaw nga klima. Ug ang among nahunaunaan nga ang produktong pagkaon gamit ang cinnamon haum sa panginahanglan sa mga gadayo, galaag ug gaagi sa among lugar. Karon nga amo nang gagamiton ang kalingag sa among pagluto og pan, nagmugna mi og resource management plan, plano kung unsaon ang insakto ug malawtayon nga pag-harvest kalingag nga dili mamatay o mahurot ang kapanguhaan. Sa kasamtangan usab, aduna kami natanom nga kapin kulang 1 ka hektarya nga cinnamon farm nga gisuportahan sa PTFCF kaniadto. Og aduna kami itanumay pa nga mga kalingag alang sa dugang supply ug malawtayon nga negosyo. Alang usab sa dugang protection sa cinnamon ug kinaiyahan, adunay gipahigayon nga binulan nga pagmonitor sa among bantay kalasan diha sa kalasangan. Para nga masiguro nga dili madaot ang cinnamon o madagmalan ang kinayahan, aduna kami mga gihimo nga mga pulisiya nga kinahanglan ang mag-harvest sa cinnamon kato lamang ang mga tawo nga na-orient sa among nauyonan nga harvesting protocols. Ang mga protocols mulakip na kung kinsa lang ang mag-harvest, unsaon ang pagkuha o pamaagi sa paglugit sa panit sa kahoy, kanusa o kapila maharbisa ng usa ka kahoy. Kining tanan nga pamaagi o pamalaod pagsiguro nga dili madagmalan ang kahoy sa sinamon.
Ang tumong niini aron maampingan dili lang ang kapaningwaan sa sinamon kundi lakip na usab ang lasang nga adunay nahimutangan sa mga kalingag. Tungod kay ang lasang o kinayahan importante kaayo kanamong mga higaonon tungod kay diha na umol ang among kultura ug tradisyon. Kung walay lasang siguro walay tribo nga sama nako o walay makasinati sa pag-amping sa kalasangan nga akong maipaambit sa inyo karon. Ug manghinaot ko uban sa among mga membro sa Cinnamon Community Enterprise nga makabot namo ang mga gitinguha nga molambo ug malahotay ang among negosyong cinnamon ug lakip na inayana ang pag-amping ug pagkonserba sa nahabilin nga kalasangan. Ang pagnegosyo namo sa kapagtuo nga ang lasang makahatag kanamo og produkto ug angay lang nga ampingan kini. Ug sa padayon nga pag-amping niini paghatag usab kini sa among panginabuhian, dili lang panginabuhian ang kahatag sa among yutang kabilin ug kalasangan, kundi maok usab kini ang sentro sa among pagtuo ug kultura isip mga higaonon. Makasubo ang kahimtang sa among yutang kabilin karon, ilabi na kay grabe ang pagpamalit sa yutang kabilin ug daghang mga kwartahang individual o negosyante nga namalit sa yuta tungod kay pindot pa kayo ang among lugar. Anaa pa diya ang baga nga lasang ug bugnawng klima. Sa pagkatinuod lang adunay pipila nga membro diha sa among komunidad nga namaligya og yutang kabilin tungod sa kawadon ug naningkamot nga makahawas sa kalisod sa kahimtang. Mao nga makaingon ko nga ang among pagnegosyo og kalingag usa ka hagit kanamong mga higaonon aron ampingan ug padayon nga dipinsahan ang nahabilin nga kalasangan ug padayon usab ang panginabuhi nga malahotayon.
Yes, Annie is here.
So I thank Brady for your presentation. You have helped us understand the great connection you have with the forest and Hinagown and how you help your community to achieve sustainable livelihood. You truly have become an inspiration to the students and youth attending today's meeting. I sincerely hope that you achieve your goal of a successful and sustainable cinnamon community enterprise. For our third speaker, we have Michelle Jean Silihan. Michelle Jean is also a Hinagown youth from Misamis Oriental, Northern Mindanao, Philippines. She is currently a student of the University of Science and Technology, Philippines, studying Bachelor of Science in Agriculture major in Entrepreneurship. She has been actively involved in CBNE for 2 years. Now, let us see her presentation.
My name is Michelle Jean Mendoza Pinohan. I am 22 years old. I am pure Higaonon by ethnicity. I was born and raised in Batiklavria, Misamis Oriental. I am currently studying Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, major in Entrepreneurship at USTP, a local university owned and run by the government. I am a youth volunteer in our community development projects. I am involved in enterprise development and forest conservation projects.
Our community's indigenous peoples organization is called Mat-Iman Ibay Sivoling Language Tribal Community or Mamasila. It is composed of 4 sub-communities. It is located in Misamis Oriental and Hingoog City. Mamasila was organized in 2005. The main reason why it was founded is because the four communities that compose Mamasila decided to have our ancestral territories delineated and recognized by the Philippine government. In this way, we are able to protect it. Since my father is one of the elders in our community and my sister is the chairperson of Mamasila, it sort of follows that I help them. My father is respected for his knowledge about forest and his leadership in our community. He is a kind and generous father, but he is strict when it comes to our commitment for the development of the community, preservation of our forest, culture, and tradition. My father encouraged me to join my first enterprise development activity in the early part of 2019. The activity was all about product development, wherein we process cinnamon pastry using our very own cinnamon resource as flavoring. It was fun because several other young people were there, my cousins and friends. And it is exciting because aside from being a volunteer, I personally like the business industry and I consider the community experiences as an opportunity to learn. I was also asked to conduct a taste test for our cinnamon bread mamba bet of non-timber forest products oriented me and my cousin how to conduct the taste test and how to use the sensory test form. The unforgettable part of conducting the taste test was giving free samples to local officials who happened to be dining in a local cafe, a target outlet for our pastry product. One of the officials liked the cinnamon bread so much and I did not expect that he would cooperate in answering my question to complete the form. He was very helpful, considering that I am just a student and he was a well-known politician in Misamis Oriental. The sensory test was quite successful and we were able to visit several cafes and conduct the test. And the result was, most of the people we asked like our product, in that the sensory test results showed that we have a good product. Another cool experience as a youth volunteer was attending and participating in webinars and international that. I think this is my second time attending an international webinar. In our community, youth are often enlisted by our people's organization to produce video materials to document our indigenous knowledge, system and practices, or IKSP. Just like the video we did in partnership with the Bukidnon State University, which shows our traditional way of foraging cinnamon from the forest and the importance of the forest to our culture and livelihoods. Often we are tasked to do the video recording and some of us even do the editing, because they use, as what they say, are more adept in using digital devices such as cell phones as cameras and laptops for editing. Having Philippine-wide learning sessions related to traditional food, enterprise, indigenous people's rights, with other indigenous young people like me is also a cool experience. I get to meet and learn from and share things with youth from Palawan, Sierra Madre, and Aklan. Aware that this experience is not common for other youth like me. I feel grateful because it is a privilege. Not everyone is given this privilege to attend these webinars for free and the loads are given.
In addition, I feel that I am part of important learning process because we talk a lot about issues faced by other indigenous communities, issues that are related to enterprise development and management, IP rights, among others. Sometimes I have to admit that the issues are quite overwhelming for a youth like me, but I also feel privileged because I get to participate and represent my community and I'm able to share our concern and issues. Sometimes I get tired and become distracted with my studies because of these activities during this pandemic. During this pandemic, we do homeschooling. We start learning on our own, studying all by ourselves, learning the lessons all by yourself without teachers and classmates physically around to share your homework with or to ask and clarify lessons with is quite challenging and exhausting. Plus, the community involvement will sometimes drain me. Honestly, couple of times I wanted badly to bail out from all of this community involvement because I would rather focus on my study, just live like any normal kid does. I realized that this ancestral domain belongs to us, and the future of this ancestral domain is in the hands of young people like me, my ancestors, my father, my elders, who are behind all of this, sacrificed a lot in order to pass on to us the rights and the chance to claim what's belong to us.
Thank you, Ms. Shazeen, for your amazing presentation. I am sure you have motivated the students and youth attending our session today. I sincerely hope you will continue to carry on your responsibility to protect your ancestral forest while providing a sustainable livelihood despite all the challenges you face. Now, we will open the floor for questions for our speakers. Coming to our first question, what do you think would be the challenges faced, is currently facing, or will be faced by youth in engaging with CBNEs? Brady, please tell us from your experience. You may answer in Tagalog or Cebuano. For our participants, please click the English interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. Brady, over to you.
Maybe Annie, before as we wait for them, we could maybe ask Dr. Brady first.
Yes, Dr. Brady, over to you.
Thank you, Annie. Well, I talked about some of the challenges in my presentation. I really appreciate the other two presentations to really provide a on-the-ground perspectives and experiences. My particular interest, as I mentioned, it comes from the access to finance aspect of NTFP development and the commercial aspects of NTFP, and I recognize that not everyone is collecting NTFPs for purely commercial reasons. So I'm a little reluctant to emphasize too much on the access to finance, but where financial support, financing is desired, in order for an enterprise to grow, then it's really important for the enterprise to acquire skills, basic skills such as accounting, banking, a little bit of finance, marketing. And these are skills that typically older generations may not have in remote or in rural locations. So there's a real opportunity for youth to select these topics and pursue studies for access to finance, dealing with banks, investors. There's an unbelievable amount of detailed information typically required, and that requires some skills in maths, accounting. So I think that's a challenge that will probably become more and more relevant. But again, I don't want to overemphasize the commercial aspects where some NTFP is being developed for almost non-commercial purposes, and that's important to acknowledge. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Brady, for highlighting some of the challenges faced in the NTFP sector and how youth could be helpful in overcoming these challenges. If either Grady or Micheline is here, I'll pass this question over to you. Thank you.
Maybe you can repeat the question, Annie.
Okay, again, what do you think would be the challenges faced, is currently facing, or will be faced by youth in engaging with CBNEs? I pass over the question to either Grady or Micheline. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, Micheline, continue, please.
Pwede Bisaya, ma'am.
Opo, pwede pong Bisaya.
Okay. Para sa ako is ang dako nga hagit sa amo karon sa pag-engage sa CBNEs kana ang time namo kanang as kanang students o kanaang youth nga ga volunteer, so kanang time gyud siya kay usay ga conflict ang schedule sa among school ug sa mga activities na among kinahanglan gampanan sa kanaang involvement ng CBNEs. Tas ang isa pod ang amo ang mga kanaang medyo limitado pa jud amo ang kahibalo tungkol sa kanaang CBNE. So murag mao sa karon mao pa ang ako ang makuan pa maiingon. Thank you,
Micheline, for your answer. Brady, if you are here, I pass this question over to you.
Wala na ma'am, katura ang gitubag ni Juan MJ o Michelle Jean.
Thank you, Brady, for your answer. Moving forward to our second question. How would we further engage conversations to professional, government bodies, and institutions about the importance of NTFPs and the role of youth and CBNEs? Dr. Brady, please give your insights into this matter. Over to you, Dr. Brady.
Well, thanks for that interesting question. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is what I would call grouping or collective efforts. Individual NTFP harvesters, processors are typically very small enterprise. And in order to have influence on policy, government support, these enterprises need to group together into associations, cooperatives, product associations, and that's a very common route. So I think for youth to have an influence, getting involved in commodity associations at an early stage is one way to strengthen the NTFP and its enterprises. So associations, I think, would be an area that I would put emphasis on. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Brady, for your interesting answer. Now, coming to a final question in the moderator session of Q&A. How could the youth further amplify representations in terms of youth involvement and gender in CBNEs? Either Greasy or Michelle Jean, please tell us from your experience. Over to you, Greasy or Michelle Jean. Greasy, maybe you can go first.
Hello, ma'am. Para sa ako, no, para mapadayon ang pagkikadambigit sa mga kabatanunan dito sa CBNE is una dia is padayonon ang paghisgot, no, o pagtuon kabahin sa kung unsa ka importante ang CBNE din sa komunidad, and then unsa po siya ka-importante para sa benepisyo para sa mga tao nga nadina sa komunidad. So kana lang manghinaot ko nga natubag ang pangutana. Salamat.
Thank you, Greasy, for your answer. Over to you, Michelle Jean. Michelle, are you here? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Over to you.
Can you repeat the question, ma'am?
Yes, sure. How could the youth further amplify representations in terms of youth and involvement and gender in CBNEs?
Para sa ko amon kay is magpadayon as ayos nga naakaron dari sa kanang pag-volunteer, siguro magpadayon og na ang manghikayat mi sa uban nga youth pod para kini ang ka-appeal sila sa moa, kini ang maghikat o tas kana ang mag-share mi og mga knowledge na mo about the CBNE, kung unsa ang kanaang naa sa CBNE ug unsay kanaang unsa iyang kabuluhan sa mo ang community, dili lang sa among community pero sa mo apod as an individual nga naa sa kanaang kuan dana ang CBNE kana alamam. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle Jean, for your answer. I once again call upon Dr. Brady for sharing his valuable insights into this question. Over to you, Dr. Brady.
Sure. Well, I guess I would just emphasize some of the points that I made in my presentation, that youth have a particular opportunity to apply their new knowledge and studies in areas important for NTFP, particularly NTFP enterprise development. So making sure that the enterprise is spending funds properly, is generating clear revenues, that those revenues are being reinvested in the NTFP enterprise. And all of those require the ability to understand accounting, other things like marketing. I mean, there's a real opportunity to market the unique aspects of NTFP, and a real opportunity to use electronic forums, the internet, to promote the uniqueness of a particular NTFP. And again, that's a skill that youth, I think, have a particular opportunity that the older generation either doesn't have the knowledge or experience. So those are some of the issues. I mentioned, things like associations, grouping. Those are areas where you can influence policy, but I'm not sure youth really, would have I guess, the advantage in aspects like that. It would be more the internal operations of the NTFP enterprise. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Brady, for your emphasis again on your presentation. I am sure it is most helpful to each and every one of us attending our session today. With this, we conclude our moderated session of Q&A. I once again thank all our speakers, Dr. Brady, Grady, and Michelle Jean, for sharing their knowledge and understanding with us. I now open the forum to the audience for a Q&A session. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and I shall pass the forum to you. Feel free to also leave your questions and comments in the chat box, and we will address them when possible. I now open the forum to the audience for your queries.
हाम्रो अर्को अडियन्सको लागि म मेरो आफै यो
Excuse me, sir. Suvash, our interpreter, you're in another channel. Okay. So go ahead, Annie.
Paula, I don't see the English interpretation.
Oh, I see Sophia raising her hand. Sophia.
Hi, everyone. So my question is for Grigi. What are your current projects in your enterprise, and is there any way we can support it?
Yes, hello. Para sa pangutana nga kuan unsa ang kasamtangan nga project diha sa among enterprise is ang gitawag namo nga cinnamon, ang cinnamon bread enterprise. So para sa kuan ang pangutana is unsay mga posible nga maitabang diha sa among business na cinnamon sa pagkakaroon kulang pa kayo ang among mga pasilidad para sa buhat sa maong produkto. So ikaduha po diha isang kuan wala pa may nakaparehistro sa binha sa duli o uban pa nga ahensya para sa ma-accredit ang among enterprise. So kana lang sa siguro o daghan salamat hinaot nga natubag na ko ang pangutana.
Thank you, Grady, for the answer. We have another question again to you. Regard of cinnamon, since you are talking about the bark of the cinnamon tree, how to protect the tree from external elements like disease, since the bark protects the tree. Grady? Are you here?
Yes, hello.
I will repeat the question again. The question is, since the cinnamon tree bark protects the tree from external elements like disease, how would we protect the tree from diseases and external elements?
Okay, salamat sa mga pangutana sa pagkakaroon sa amo ang pamaagi para maprotektahan ang cinnamon tree. So una is nami gitawag nga ang pagpa-implementar sa amo ang Indigenous Knowledge Systems and Practices or IKSP. So na din nakasulod ang pamaagi nga dili madagmalan ang ang cinnamon nga kahoy o di na po nakasulod ang yun sa namo na pag atiman ang cinnamon tree. So usa sa naa din ha is dili gid mi wala gitudlo sa among IKSP nga mogamit mi og mga inorganic nga mga fertilizer or mga chemicals para sa maong para sa mga pagtanom sa cinnamon tree. So kinadili po din ha ang kanaang mogamit og kanang gitawag nato nga kanaang binag-o no, or binag-o nga mga pamaagi karon. So kasagaran mga inorganic na nga mga fertilizer. So gibawal gyud no, bawal hiluhan ang gani ang ang yuta no, bawal nga applyan sa mga chemicals. So usa na nga pamaagi namo nga kanaang maprotektahan no ang cinnamon tree. So pinaagi sa among IKSP. So dili lang nako masulti kung unsa gid nga pamaagi tungod kay taas kayo kung ang IKSP nga akong giingon daghan kayo nga matang o pamaagi sa pag dumala din sa amo ang gitawag nga kuan pagtanom sa cinnamon. So kana lang og salamat basin og naay kadugang akong kuan kauban si MJ. So,
thank you, Brady, for your answer. If the audience has any more questions, please feel free to raise your hand or leave them in the chat box.
We have two people raising their hands, Lau and Kyle. Maybe Lau can go first.
Okay, so am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, Lau.
Okay, thank you. So hi everybody, I'm Lau. I'm from IPSA as well. And my question is for Michelle. You said that you sometimes want to give up, and I just want to know what motivates you to continue, given that I also have advocacies of my own, and I don't want to reach a point where I would think that I want to give up. So I want to know what motivates you to keep on doing what you're doing.
Yes, it's a very interesting question. Over to you, Michelle.
Oh yes, unsay na pag nagpa-motivate sa ko ang nga magpadayon is kanaang oo kapoy ang kini ang mag-volunteer gyud labi nag estudyante pa kay daghan gyud kayo gyud apasunon pag sa as students og napay mo ang kanaang mga other matters sa kanaang gawas na sa kanaang pagkayus nimo nga pag-involve sa komunidad, pero kanaang sa paghuna-una jud nako kung ngano kanang kung kinahanglan or dapat pagid ko nga mo give up sa pag-involve sa nahuna-unaan nako nga kanaang dugay na kaayo ni siya ay daghan na nga mga tao ang nisakripisyo dani sa una pa lang og daghan yung tao nga kanaang daghan nanay uban nga wala na kay kanaang, pero ang ilaag yung tingwa is kanaang mapadayon og kanaang mahimong ma-fruitful ang kanaang ilaang gisakripisyo sa una. So kanang na-realize na ako nga kanaang dili pod ko dapat na mahimong selfish nga kanaang after nila nga na kanaang nabuhat ang tanan og karon ang uban nila nga nabuhat is amo anang na kanaang na tagana or na kanaang kitawag dere kining nakuan na mo amo nang na-experience ang uban nila nga sakripisyo ang mga prutas silang na sakripisyo sa una. So para sa ko dapat dili ko may mong selfish kay daghan pa pod nga mga bata or mga dapat uban nga henerasyon pod ang kanaang kinahanglan pa pod og tabang og kung kanaang kung wala nay muliho karon og tanan og mo mangundang nami nga nag-volunteer karon, so wala nag magpadayon sana na sugdan sa mga ancestor sa mga
sa mga kahago nga ilaang naiambag dani ang kanaang organisasyon. So as ako, so nagpadayon ko kay gusto ko nga hanaang sa kanang umaabot pud nga kanang henerasyon ma-experience pud nila or maka-experience pa sila mas better sa ako ang na-experience karon. So ingana, so gusto na ko sila nga kanaang maka-experience lagi mga privileges nga wala na ako na experience sa karon og ma-experience nila sa puhon. So para lang pod nga dili pod ma-disappoint ang ako ang mga elders ug ako ang ilabi na akong papa jud nga kanang dugay na pod nga kanaang ga volunteer gi nagsakripisyo para dani nga organisasyon. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jean, for your words of inspiration. Paula, I see Subhash's hand is up, I think. No, sorry. I'm really sorry. William, please.
Hi, am I audible? I need a confirmation. Okay, thank you. So once again,
William,
good afternoon.
I see your hand is raised.
Yeah. Hello? I am audible.
Yes, you are.
If not, I pass the forum to Kyle. Kyle, you may ask your question.
Okay, I guess I should go first. So, hello everyone, good day. I'm Kyle from IFSA. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you for our speakers for their very nice presentation. But my question is for Dr. Michael Brady. I actually have two questions. The first question is, what are the current needs for graduates to work, and what can we do to interest more students to focus on NTFPs? That's all. Thank you.
Is this for Dr. Brady? Kyle?
Okay, thanks, Kyle, for the interesting questions. I would say, I think some of the topics that I've mentioned in my presentation are areas where, much more research is needed. So advancing your education, certainly a bachelor degree is important. A master's degree is even more useful, where you can specialize in different fields, some of the fields that I've mentioned. I think as NTFP, as there's more pressure on NTFP commodities, they're going to be, they'll need to be managed more carefully, and we'll have to have better understanding of, the ecological sustainability, as well as, as I mentioned, some of the management and policy sustainability requirements. So I think there's opportunities to, to advance your studies in these areas. I believe research organizations are always looking for younger scientists to, maybe first come in at a junior level. Sometimes, unfortunately, even internships, which aren't too bad, but they are a pathway to getting some good experience. And if you've got the academic qualifications, then I think research organizations are always looking for people, particularly those that come in with ideas and that have an understanding of what they'd like to study. But people like me, old, gray-haired, near retirement, I'm going to need to be replaced. So I think there are some good opportunities, but it's something you've got to really pursue yourself. I can't remember the second question, Kyle. Can you repeat it?
Sure. The second question is, what can we do to interest more students to focus on NTFPs?
Sure. Well, I think, I guess, as I've said, if you know, there's many aspects to NTFP. If there is a business and commercial aspect, then that's a great area for, you know, people coming in with those accounting skills, marketing skills, even product development skills. You know, food science, for example. So those are some areas that I think are can be pursued. To some degree, it's an economy of scale. I talked about rubber, you know, which is a huge sector. Probably more opportunities there. Rattan is, you know, is a much smaller sector. Much more carefully managed, perhaps fewer opportunities, more focused. So it really depends on the particular NTFP. Hope that helps. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brady. I once again pass the forum to William. William, are you here?
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, please continue.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to address my question to Miss Michelle. My question is, Michelle, is your organization is intended for your community alone, or it's for everyone? It's open for everyone?
Thank you,
Because
William, for your question.
I am also part of it.
Yes, thank you, William, for your question. Michelle, please, over to you. Michelle, are you here?
Hello.
Yes, Michelle, please.
Yes. Mangutana ta ko if ang question ba is ang for everyone ba nga IP or for koan lang? For appeal ang din.
Okay, I am part of indigenous people, like specifically Higaonon. So in our community, we don't have any organization that we support like activity. So my question is your organization or is just intended for your community alone?
No, di ba no? No.
Thank you, Michelle. I know Michelle answered your question, William. She said no, it's not intended for her community alone or her enterprise alone.
Yes,
so,
hello.
Yes, Brady, please.
So, para dugang sa tubag, no, katong sa pangutan na about kay Michelle Jean, kauban rami sa organization, and then among organization is kuan lang kana ang maka-focus lang sila diya sa among ancestral domain. So mga IP nga naa din na nagpuyo, so naka focus lang mi dinha, pero napod bali na ay part pod sa amo ang mission o makiglambigit sa mga nagkadaiyang ahensya, no, sa governmentan or sa kanaang non-government organization. So muna ako kadugang og dayon napay kaduha di ay ang among organization pod is dili lang din na sa among komunidad, pero nakiglambigit pod siya din na sa naglain-lain nga IP communities nga ilabi na sa mga higaunon, no? So nga higaunon nga tribo. So kana lang og daghang salamat inaot nga natubag na ko ang pangutana.
Yes, thank you, Brady, for additional input into this question. I hope they have answered your question, William. William, are you here? William, if that's it, we can move forward. So with this, we come to the conclusion of our Q&A session of the audience. To close the session, we have a youth reactor from the International Forestry Students Association. Ms. Noor Maudalina is a final year forestry undergraduate student majoring in forest resources conservation and ecotourism, ITB University, Indonesia. She is working on her undergraduate thesis about the participation of forest farmers group in ecosystem restoration on Mount Halimun Salak National Park. Furthermore, she also serves as head of UNEP subcommission at the International Forestry Students Association. With forestry as a background, she is engaged in the field of conserving the forest and coastal areas sustainably. She is passionate about youth empowerment as she believes that it would be a foundation for collaboration with stakeholders to establish conservation. Over to you, Ms. Noor.
Thank you, Eddie. So, hello everyone. My name is Noor Maudalina. You can call me Dina. I'm a final year student while pursuing my bachelor degree in ITB University. In here, I will doing a youth reactor. So, next slide, please. In here, I will tell about based on my experience, conducted research about forest farmer group in ecosystem restoration on Malasari Village, Mount Halimun Salak National Park. And the next. Malasari Village is very famous for rice terrace, and it is located in the northeast Mount Halimun Salak area, and they are located in Bogor Regency. Next, please. In here, some of example, the cooperation agreement between Mount Halimun Salak National Park with the forest farmer group. One of the reasons they create this to prevent they are being gold miner again, so they could change their job path to become forest farmer groups. And some of official, when they are become forest farmer group, they could sell their NTFP. The next. Here, some of the forest farmer group. Mostly they are from elderly. Next, please. The livelihood of the people of Malasari village are mainly as farmers and also laborers. And the 96 member of forest farmer group, some of them former illegal gold miner. This is some of the example. They are doing the illegal gold miner, and what they have done is really dangerous. Sometimes they don't use the helmet. That's why from the Mount Halimun National Park, they make the cooperation agreement to prevent their coming back as an illegal gold miner. And the next. Here are some of example products from the forest farmer group. It is the palm sugar, and they create by themselves. Most of them created by the elderly. And the next is The next slide is honey. So the honey from Malasari village is very unique. They have the lightness taste, and the color of their honey is not dark. And next. So problem in Malasari village, especially the role of youth in this conservation, is very important. Most of the forest farmer group, they could manage how to produce the NTFP is from elderly. So most of them is unemployed. They don't want to contribute to help the elderly because they still have a mindset we could depend on our parents, kind of thing like that. So it's very important for some of forest farming group, especially from youth, they could have a skill to harvesting honey and from sugar and not depend on the elderly. Especially in here, the elderly have a health problem. So unfortunately, for the honey and palm sugar product is quite rare to found if we want to buy from them. And what kind of influence do they need? The first is to minimize their consumer behavior. As I said before, some of them is former of illegal gold miner, so they had consumer mindset. In one day, and only in one day, they could 60 to 80 USD only one day from gold miner. But as they are changed their job path as the forest farmer, they could only get 60 to 80 USD per month. And the next, they need a capacity development training, especially to youth, about harvesting honey, palm sugar, and promote their own product. As I really agree from Dr. Brady, give the influence about the financial, because in here, in the past, actually they have a training to create their own product, but unfortunately, they could manage their money. So some of the money they get from selling their product, they're using for their own activity, not try to develop their own product. The next thing that can be done is to involve party out of there, such as professional, NGO, local government, and higher education. And unfortunately, in here, there is a lack of involvement party. And the next. Since this is the lack of youth involvement in this area, youth from outside conservation area could give their contribution with in their activity to climate action and environmental conservation and protection, such as youth proverb capacity development training. And as I saw from Brady and Miss Jane experience, they have encouraged themselves to get involved in CBNE. They are some of role model for the youth, and because they volunteer themselves and could balance their academic life with this, and the youth generation they have the responsibility to manage this NTFP. And the benefit if the youth involvement, especially the youth involvement, when the elderly treatment from their position, they can be more independent. And that's it from my reaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Noor. Now, to conclude, I hope this session has been transformative for all the participants attending. We were able to understand the role of CIFOR ICRAF and research, development, and sustainable management of NTFP resources, and how our youth is engaged actively for the upliftment of the NTFP sector in their region, along with protection of natural resources while earnestly generating income and livelihoods to forest communities. I thank Dr. Brady for spending your valuable time with us today, and Brady and Michelzi for being a motivation to us through your work. I also thank the audience for your participation in our session today, and I do hope you would continue to take part in our future events as well.